Okay. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here again, David. This is great. I love participating in these events. How's everybody doing? I'm seeing that we have a full house. Actually, yeah, it's a full house before the summer begins. Let me know where you guys are from and how your weather is, because the weather has been just amazing lately here. Where are you guys all coming in from? Let me know in the chat box. Hi, Brian, you are in Baltimore. Nice. I'm actually reading a book about a guy that just graduated from Johns Hopkins. So it's not a common thing that I hear about Baltimore, but I just literally was listening to that today. Who else is here? Anybody else that is with us? I mean, I'm seeing a ton of people. Hi, David. Yes, Louisville. Kamloops, BC, Canada. Is that in the actual Rockies? I don't know your name. Is that Shell and Tikanis? You are from Holland. Which part of Holland right now? Actually, I'm curious. I'm in Spain. Is Holland, is it 5 p.m. in Holland? Are you guys on the same time as me? Delft. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, are you guys on the same timeline as I am, time zone as me, or are you guys 1 hour ahead? I know because it's kind of, yeah, it's all kind of right around the same areas, right? I was five, it's the same. I was just in Portugal recently and it was 1 hour behind, which was kind of interesting, but I guess I'm at one part of Spain and Portugal's all the way on the other side of me. All right, guys. Well, I wanted to welcome you all to the seminar or the webinar, the summit. I'm not even sure what they're called anymore. Just these live classes, live presentations. I'm so grateful you guys are all here. And I am Marina, the Trader Chick, and this is me. Thank you again for being here, and let's dive in. So I want to ask you guys a question. Who here likes Cirque du Soleil? So Cirque du Soleil is something that me and my youngest son have like as a tradition. We go to whenever it comes around, wherever we live. It's just me and my youngest son. My oldest son and my husband don't really enjoy it, but me and my son love it. We love it. We've seen probably, I think at this point, 4 or 5 the Cirque du Soleils, and I am a complete lover, like over the top. I'm always completely amazed by what these guys can do, guys and women can do. I mean, it's just absolutely beyond understanding, right? And one time we were at the show, and I just kind of started to look at it from a different perspective. And I realized that these guys are performers, right? We look at them, that they are doing these unbelievably extraordinary feats. But at the end of the day, they're literally just ordinary humans who are doing extraordinary things, right? I mean, there's one right now in Barcelona. For the past 6 months, they've been doing like this mad advertising, and they just came through. It was only like a month in town, and every single show was completely booked out. They had literally like 50 shows, and for good reason, right? Like these guys are insane. They're unbelievable. But in reality, at the end of the day, it's just ordinary people that are doing extraordinary things. And it really got me to think, like, what does it take for an ordinary person to become extraordinary? And it doesn't matter if Cirque du Soleil is just a really good example because we could see like how absolutely insane the stuff they do. But in reality, we could do this for anything we do, right? And it's literally the same process to become a successful day trader, right? Like it's literally the same. So what is it? I broke it down, right? I sat down and I'm like, what is it? What makes them the way they are? And what makes a successful trader the way they are? And it's really the same 5 principles, right? Number one is their commitment, right? We look at them and we know that they have been doing this for years. There's years of training to perfect this mastery, right? Like they did not wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm going to be doing crazy acrobatics 60 feet up in the air without any nets on a tightrope doing crazy stunts, right? Absolutely not, because everybody knows that if you do something like that, you die. Like it's just a given, right? So these guys have committed, they are practicing, they are truly perfecting their mastery. The next thing is their intense focus, right? Imagine going to a Cirque du Soleil show and here they are. swinging from these swings up in the air or doing these motorcycle stunts. And meanwhile, they're checking their Facebook or their Instagram. Right? I mean, it's ludicrous, right? You would never, like, that's crazy. So they are so focused and so in the moment that if they break that moment, if they break that focus, they'll die. Like, that's the thing with them, is like, if they do that, they will die. And the discipline, right? They show up day in and day out, no matter what, right? They have to show up. This is their job. This is their life. This is what they do. They show up and they stick to what they have been training, what their focus, all of that, right? The trust. They have complete and total trust in several things. Number one, their partners, right? Like, imagine all of a sudden showing up and they've never met the person that they are about to, jump on top of their head and be like swung with, in the air with just their hair. I mean, it would be completely absurd, right? Like, they would never do that. They know their partners, they trust their partners, they have practiced with their partners and their routine, which they have practiced as well with their partners, and their equipment. There is no way they're going to be getting on top of whatever it is they're doing without having that equipment tested over and over and over again, and them to have such trust that it's not even something that they think about, right? And confidence. They have not an inkling of doubt in themselves. And what is that? That is the trust that comes through the practice, through all of that. Now, this is literally the same formula for any kind of a successful person, yet somehow, somewhere, this line got broken when it comes to the financial markets, right? Because there's absolutely no barrier to entry when we want to enter the financial markets, either for trading or investing. There's zero barrier to entry, right? Nobody's telling you that, hey, have you been training? Have you been practicing your strategy? Have you tried it? No, right? So there's very little mastery that actually goes behind it, because people think, well, I could just become rich yesterday, right? Well, I've made a little bit of money. Let me just donate it to the markets. The focus, I mean, the amount of people that pretend that they are trading or investing while they're, scrolling Facebook or chatting on the phone. Again, if you're not in the moment, you could completely lose everything because you're not focused enough and disciplined. Do you show up day in and day out? I have a course that I literally work with my students. They send me their charts, they ask me all their questions, we look at their trade entries and whatnot. Some of these people send me their charts once a month, and they're like, well, why didn't this trade work out? I'm like, can I see the other charts that you have done? Can I see the other trades you have done in that month? Oh, this is the only one I took and it didn't work. Because they don't show up. They didn't show up. And what are they doing? The whole trade was completely wrong because they didn't put in any effort. So the discipline, right? They literally lack the discipline. And the other massive, massive issue is when you want to be a good day trader, you need to have good, strong platform, right? You need to have a strong charting platform. And a lot of people, they just open up some charting platform. They don't have a clue how to use that equipment. So they don't have any trust in it. They're freaking out when they are doing it. Yet somehow, for some ridiculous, stupid reason, they decided to enter with their live money while they're still learning their equipment. So they don't have any real trust in what they're doing, right? So that also starts to take away from them achieving and being successful. And what does that lead to? Lack of confidence. And at the end of the day, when you are trading, when you are doing anything, it's literally all about your confidence. It's about the confidence in what you are doing and in the decisions that you are going to be taking. So this can never happen overnight, right? You cannot wake up this morning and say, you know what, I'm going to be jumping on top of this iron bar with two guys on bikes while we're 60 feet up in the air on a wire, right? This is not something that happens yet. People tend to put in thousands of dollars into a market exactly kind of mimicking this scenario without doing any practice whatsoever. The thing is, a lot of people think that it's really hard to do, but these guys didn't just jump on that. It takes tiny little steps, right? So what do they all have in common? Interestingly enough, a lot more than we all think, because 95% of the people fail, it's usually because they aren't putting in any of the principles that I just mentioned, right? So the 5%, and it's actually, I think now 3% that are truly succeeding and doing an amazing job. So, what is it that makes traders successful, right? It's literally what's going to be the difference with the other 95% that say that it's risky, that say that it's gambling. And even though we can't go over everything, we can start to focus on really important stuff. And today, that's what I'm going to be talking to you guys about. In this presentation, we're going to be talking to you about trends. And all about trends and how to spot the trends, how to understand the sideways trends, and then at the end, how to actually do high probability trade setups because it's all about that. Now, I know that we only have 45 minutes together here. I have my entire presentation for free so that you can follow along. And David is really great about replays. So you could download the free presentation. It's 100% free. Go to makingofadaytrader.com. Just put it into your browser, makingofadaytrader.com, and you can download the presentation to go along with what I'm doing now, and also then to go at your own pace when you are watching the replay. All right, so before we jump in to everything, I do want to do a really quick intro and fun facts, right? Because we are people that are sitting behind our charts. And that is something that we tend to forget. So just think of yourselves. I'm just going to do a quick intro about myself. I am Marina, the Trader Chick. I'm an expat. I've been living in Barcelona now for a little bit over a year, but I've been an expat for over 20 years at this point. We first moved to Costa Rica, where we lived there for 7 years. Then my family and I lived in Guatemala, where we lived for 14 years. And now we've been here for over a year already in Barcelona. Being an expat has been the absolute most enriching experience of my life. And if anybody can have a chance to do that, and today it's quite simple to do, right? Moving around, especially when you're day trading, you can do this from anywhere in the world. It's a beautiful possibility. And if you could offer it to your kids, it's amazing. Before I became a day trader, I was a fitness instructor and a travel writer. The main reason I talk about this and is because a lot of people think that they have to have like a math background or a financial background or an academic background. But in reality, anybody could do anything before becoming a day trader, right? And that's the beauty of day trading, that anybody can truly do this and should. Honestly, it's a great, great, great lifestyle. And I'm trilingual. And the only reason why I'm actually letting you know that I'm trilingual is because I I've been now trading for over 12 years. When I first began, it was always a struggle for me. The first couple of years, I could not find my way. I was losing money. I was constantly struggling until I applied learning a new language, the same kind of system that I applied to learning a new language to the charts. I was born in the Soviet Union, so Russian is my mother tongue, but I learned English in the US because we moved to the US when I was really tiny. So I didn't really actually learn English as much as I just learned how to speak or continue learning how to speak. However, Spanish, I did learn in my later years. I was in my late 20s when I really learned Spanish. And it's a whole process, right, of learning a new language. And when I decided to look at the market from that perspective, learning a new language, it totally changed everything for me. And whenever I talk about that, I always have somebody either email me, or I used to do a lot of live presentations like in person, come up to me like, yes, the idea of looking at it as learning as a language changed everything for me. Because the reality is that the markets, they actually speak to us. They have their own language. And once you understand those language, once you understand what it says, boom, you'll be able to work with the market rather than try to beat it or try to predict it, which neither of those will ever work. And the coolest thing of all, you could do this from anywhere. You could literally trade from anywhere. My family and I, for us, travel is not a luxury. It's a necessity, right? For instance, in 2.5 weeks, I am taking off to do the Camino de Santiago for 2 months, right? And I could do whatever I want as I'm even walking in the middle of rural Spain in Camino because I could do this from anywhere. So the idea of trading and people constantly saying, well, how's the internet? There is no problem with the internet anymore, right? The internet is great everywhere you go. Again, you guys can get my entire presentation, making of a day trader.com. So every performer starts with learning the basics, right? That's how you grow your confidence. This is how you master things, is you start with the small things. This guy did not start 60 feet up in the air twirling on these ribbons, right? He probably started, no, not probably, definitely, he started with his feet on the ground doing the different acrobatics until his confidence grew and grew and grew, and he was able to go higher and higher and higher, right? It's the same thing for day trading. It all begins with the basics. And once you understand those basics of day trading, that's when everything starts to come together. So today we're going to be focusing on those four basics of day trading, four basics of trading. Okay. So let's begin with the increments of the trends. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's like learning a new language, right? You would never walk into a room with six native Spanish speakers. You don't speak a word of Spanish and just believe that you're going to have a massive conversation with them. It's impossible, right? You need to first begin with the basics with one person who understands that you're learning. Hola, mi nombre es, these basics. That's how you grow with learning a language, and that's how you grow with everything. So the way tightrope walkers, they all start with small steps that lead to those bigger moves, right? This did not happen overnight. And I'm going to repeat this over again because a lot of people still are not understanding that you should never just start to donate your money to the market. You should never get on a bike and ride it on a high wire 60 feet up in the air if you don't even understand how to pedal. Okay, so let's learn how to pedal. All right, let's jump on that tightrope and let's begin. First things first, market movements. Excuse me one second. Okay, so let's begin. One second here. Indie drivers to high wire performers. Yeah, indie drivers think they're going to get into a car and go crazy on a racetrack. No, they're probably going to first take it around on a cul-de-sac and get started really small. If you don't know what a cul-de-sac is, it's like a dead end street. It's a tiny little street, right? So it's the same exact thing when it comes to day trading. Guys, let's begin with trends. What are the trends? This is the very beginning because even though we know that there are three trends, right, which is the upward trend, the downward trend, we forget that the sideways trend is probably the one that costs us the most amount of money. Why? Because this is the exhaustion pattern. This is the indecision zone. This is the consolidation area, the channel. This is where the market has no real momentum, right? And I'm going to explain to you why this is the one I call the trader's worst enemy. But first, let's just break down the trend so that we can kind of like immediately put it into our minds, right? What is an upward trend? It's literally when each pivot is higher than the next. This is where we enter a buy. This is where we go long, right? What does that mean? Very simple. Don't overthink it. You're entering low, exiting high, taking the profit in between. Downward trend, literally the opposite, right? It is where you are entering a short. You're shorting the market. You're entering a sell, right? This is when each pivot is lower than the other and it's continuing on. What is this? This is literally where you enter at a high price point, you exit at a lower price point, and you take the money in between. All right, guys, breaking it down, super simple. This is what a downward trend is all about. Don't overthink it. Don't be like, oh, these people are selling, those people are selling. Who cares who those people are? The technical analysis is telling us you enter high, exit low, take the money in between, and move on. Okay. Now, let's talk about the sideways trend. Like I literally just mentioned, it is the trader's worst enemy. All right. And how do you spot them? How do you avoid these areas? Interestingly enough, they're not that hard to avoid. But once you understand and are able to see them and spot them, I can guarantee you everything will completely change. So this is a consolidation area. Just because we have a strong downward trend does not mean it's going to continue, right? But what does mean right now we have a slowdown in front of us. And yes, it can transition, right? This is a consolidation area. Even though it might be a wider channel, look at it. Does it have any real direction? No, it's bouncing in between two spaces. Two areas, right? It's just bouncing in between. There is no real direction. This is where the majority of the money gets lost. So why does the money get lost here? Why is it that I can guarantee you that everybody who is sitting in this room right now could go into their trader's journal, their back testing journals, and see, or where you keep your records, where the majority of the money is lost. And it's usually in these areas. So I understand losing money in the beginning when you first hit that area, because it's obviously not an area you know that it's an area yet. But when you continue with this, I'll tell you why it happens. First of all, trading is a very emotional activity. Okay, it's a super emotional activity. What does that mean? It means that when we let our emotions drive us, we make all the wrong decisions. So a lot of times when we see this kind of movement, there are usually two schools of thought that starts to happen in the emotional category. One is the trend is your friend category, right? It's an emotional category. It's when you think that the trend is just going up and you see this kind of kind of activity and you're like, you know what? The market's been going up all day. I'm going to go long, right? And then you have the other school of thought, which is the contrarian. You know what? The market's been going up all day. I'm gonna I'm gonna short it because it's got to correct, and I'm gonna short it. And that's the other school of thought, the other emotional thinking, because in reality, none of those are true, right? This is where we start to pretend that we want to beat the market or we want to predict what the market is going to do. But in reality, the market isn't doing anything. And the real successful professional trader will look at it from a non-emotional level, from just looking at what is happening right in front, and they know that it's flat, it's a dead zone, it's a flat line. And you know what's the best way to do, what the best thing to do here is to fully stay out. Because a trader, a retail individual trader, only has three things they have to do. They can either get in, they can either get out, or they can stay out. And the staying out is a very underrated activity. And it's something that needs to be focused on a lot more than people realize. Okay. Because even though it feels like it's an inaction thing to do, it actually is very actionable. Okay. And sitting on your hands with your money in your pocket takes a lot of energy, but it is also the smart thing to do. And these mini consolidations can happen quite a lot, right? You could have a pretty strong move, boom, flattens out, get out, stay out, wait until it tells you what it's going to do. It will tell you. Okay. Now, when you see these movements, when you see these areas, you need to now outline them. You need to look at them and see what is happening. Because if you don't, if you're just kind of creating the scenario in your head, you're not going to remember when you are in the live market. All right. So this is super, super important. So one thing I want to say is, before we talk about the actual areas, in the in trading, everything is to the left. That's what we always say. Everything is to the left of the chart. What does that mean? When you enter a live market with your real, true live money, your adrenaline is actually the same as an Indy car driver, as a Formula One racer. It doesn't matter that it's money or they're racing, around a racetrack. It's the same amount of adrenaline because it's your live money. You become blinded. So when you are in the live market and you're looking to the left and you don't have anything drawn out, you're not going to know the reason why you entered. So it's really important to be able to outline these, draw these areas out. Now, market respects areas. And we need to respect those areas as well. And these areas are defined by two things, the support area and the resistance area. So, what is a support area? It is when you have a downward trend and all of a sudden the market starts to hit a wall or a floor, right? It starts to hit the floor over and over and over and over again. And it pretty much just stops the market from moving onward, right? That is a support area. You have to draw it out. You need to draw it in. Guys, every single platform out there today has some sort of a drawing tool. You cannot put in a mental support. Putting in a mental support is similar to putting in a mental stop. And a mental stop is literally the same thing as getting into your car, putting your baby in the car, and saying you're going to put on a mental seatbelt. And when there's an accident, you're going to think that you're going to save that child. It's absolutely impossible. The ego will never permit you to do that. You need to draw these in. You need to draw in your areas for reals, and you also need to have a full on stop. Okay, that is really, really important because then you draw it out and you are recognizing where there is a channel, where there's choppy markets, where it's all moving. The resistance area is the ceiling. It is when you have an upward trend and boom, it starts to hit the ceiling. It starts to hit a ceiling over and over and over again. This is a resistance area, regardless of you think it's going to break through or not, you think it's going to transition, until you actually have real confirmation from the market, you cannot be pretending that it's doing something that it's not. Okay. That's the most important part of all. All right. Now, how do we spot and how do we understand these areas when they are first beginning? Because it's one thing to draw it out when it's already been going for quite some time. How about in the very beginning when it's just first starting out? To me, it's all about the reversal areas and divergence. It is literally the trader's map to shift in direction. It is my holy grail. Now, what is reversal areas? We have the double tops, the triple tops, the double bottoms, the triple bottoms, and the head and shoulders. These are, first of all, free. You do not need to pay for any of this anywhere. And that's the beauty of it. It could be used with any market on the platform, right? So here's a perfect example of a double bottom. This is an absolute perfect example of a double bottom. Now, if you look at my red dots, those red dots are the MACDs. For me, the MACDs are my absolute favorite indicator because they are the least lagging. They really show me really well in advance what can happen. Now, is it telling me that the market is going to reverse? No. But what it is telling me is that the market has lost its speed. It has lost its strength. And I never want to enter a market which is dying down, which is becoming weak. So when I see this, I realize that this is a place for me to just sit out and wait it out. All right, reversal pattern. So you can see here, again, perfect double bottom. Look at the divergence. But interestingly enough, if you look a little bit before it, you'll see that the price action is going down, right? The price action is showing you that it's moving down. Yet my MACDs, the red button, the red dots, they are completely flat. So it's already telling me that things are changing, that the market is already losing its steam. And that's when I start to really listen to the market, because understanding what it's telling you is so important versus you thinking that you think you'll know what the market is going to do. Okay. So all of these put together can now help us truly focus on one of the most powerful trade setups out there, and that is spotting the valid breakout trade. The breakout trade is probably one of the most powerful trades, also most highest probability trades there is. Why? Because when you have your areas drawn in, when everything is in its right place, and then it breaks out, you need to be able to hop on it because that is the market telling you it is time to do it. Again, everything I just went through, you can get it here at makingofadaytrader.com. makingofadaytrader.com. All right, guys, let's spot those breakouts. So, what is exactly a breakout? Let me explain it to you in layman's terms. Imagine you live all the way at the very bottom of this chart, and your friend calls you up and they're like, hey, come over, I'm having a party. And then you hop in your car, you get on the highway that you are very familiar with, and you're driving confidently. But all of a sudden, there's this massive construction site, and the construction worker is telling you get off to detour, and you got to get off, and you don't know where you're at, right? And I know personally, whenever that happens to me, Google Maps is usually not caught up with a new detour. So I start to really stress out. I'm like, where am I going? What if they don't reopen? What if I have to go in these tiny little streets? I don't have any idea where I'm at. What if by the time I get there, everybody's already gone? So basically, my head is full of doubt and it's all these what ifs, right? It's not a place that I'm very confident. It's certainly not a place that I want to be putting any money on. But then all of a sudden, the construction worker says, all right, guys, road is wide open. Get back on the highway. And you get back on that highway in the same direction. And boom, that is the breakout trade. When you are given all green lights showing that you can drive continuously in the same direction. Now, the best way to do that is, again, to mark it off with areas. Okay, areas are so important, guys. Areas are important. If you do not have your areas drawn in, you will miss out on a lot, but certainly the breakout trade. I personally use two indicators, right? You can see two indicators on my charts. I only use one chart, by the way, because you want to keep it simple. If you're going to be looking at too many markets, you're going to have absolutely no luck in any of them because you need to master that one thing. And I'm going to get to that one more time because that is probably the most important thing of everything that I will be talking about. Now, I only focus on one market. When I see the breakout, I use EMA lines. So you can see those three lines. Those are my exponential moving averages. And I use them for my entries because I put in order weightings, right? And look at my MACDs. They have exploded. They are past the black dotted line is the zero dash, right? That means there's absolutely no strength there. Whenever I see the red dots by it, I know that it's just really slow. No, and no, it's just pure weakness, right? So when it hops out and it hits my EMA line, that's when I know I could enter that trade. It is a very, very high probability breakout trade. Now, here is what I really want to talk to you guys about. And this is so important because I get a lot of traders or people that want to trade and they're like, oh, I want to look at crypto. I want to look at gold. I want to look at Apple, all these different markets. And they are different markets because they all have very specific things that they do differently. You cannot look at the same one. Now, imagine a Cirque du Soleil performer doing many different activities at the same time. No, they dominate one area. This woman is never going to hop on a motorcycle and go around in circles, right? It's impossible. She knows that it is absolutely impossible to be able to master two things as well, right? I'm not saying that you cannot master more than one market in the financial markets, but you need to master one first before you move on to the next because you will end up losing. When you are trading, you do not want to diversify. When you are trading, you want to dominate that one market before you move on to the next one. All right, it is so important. Please hear that because I know a lot of people think the more markets they're trading, the more money they can make on what the reality is, the less money they make, the more markets they're trading. So focus on one and you will master it. And I guarantee that's how you can make your real money. That's how you can become a sustainable, consistent trader. Now, like I said before, everything is here, making of a day trader. Here's the thing, guys. We have absolutely everything we need to take action. Everything we need, we have in front of us. We have these amazing summits. We have live presentations. We have YouTubers. We have books. We have podcasts, right? But at the end of the day, how do you know that you are doing it right? How do you know that you're doing it right? Just because you're following some guru or some pro How do you know that it's working for you? Because all of this is great. And the real question, though, that you're probably really asking is, how do I actually really get started? And this isn't from beginners only. I get this question asked from seasoned traders, people that have been trying to trade for years and are still not consistent. And they're asking me, how do I turn this around? How do I become profitable consistently? And usually it's literally lacking the understanding of the basics. It's because a lot of times it is easy to think that we have to jump in head first without learning how to first swim or even put our foot into the pools, right? It's the same thing with driving, right? My husband and I just taught our oldest son how to drive. Well, my husband did actually. I kind of just was around. But I remember the very first time our oldest son, who's been in the passenger seat for years, hopped in. He thought he was Mr. Badass driver, and he hopped in all ready to go. And my husband's like, all right, put your foot on the clutch, put your foot on the brake, get it out of neutral, put the gear into first, and then you're going to release the gear. And he's like, wait, gear, clutch, brake. What are you talking about? Right? Because even though those are the basics, and even though we've been driving for years, we weren't born with understanding those, right? We have to begin from the very beginning, explaining one thing at a time. Now, just imagine somebody who gets into your car has never been in a car before, ever. And there are people out there like that, but I just want you to get into your creative mind. Now imagine somebody got in and you're like, all right, buckle up your seatbelt. It's going to save your life. And they are like, buckle up a seatbelt. What is that? Where is the seatbelt? What is this going to save my life? If they've never been shown that, how are they ever going to know that that is what it is? Right? Because none of us are born with this information. We are shown everything. And this was my own sad truth. For years, I spent over $20,000 on my own trainings, literally. But I still struggled for years and I was losing money to the point that I ended up losing almost $4,000 in 5 minutes. And you know why? Because I was sitting in all these different chat rooms and I was doing all these different things with all these different places that I was paying a lot of money to. But every time I asked basic questions, because I didn't understand what was going on, and I figured, well, at this point, I've been sitting in these rooms for ages, and they're saying it's a good trade, and I'm asking, but why is it a trade? Like, I don't. What you're saying that there's a divergence, I don't really understand what that means. And every time I would either be completely ignored or treated as if though I was born with this information. And we're not born with this information, guys. And after I ended up losing that $4,000, after 2 years of truly struggling, I just quit. I felt so defeated. Like I was just defeated. It was terrible. Terrible, right? It was 2 years. I felt like I was doing nothing but losing money. It was horrible. And I quit. But here's the thing, guys. And I know that every single person in this room feels the same. We are all bit by the trading bug, right? We are all bit by the trading bug. And the thing is, it never truly stops itching. Even though I quit, I was constantly still going back to the charts. I was still watching others trade. And you know why it never stops itching? And you know why you're constantly kind of going back? Because deep down inside, we know that we could do this. If they are doing this, whoever they are, if other people are doing it, I know that I can. I'm just as smart as them. So what is missing? And that's when I decided to come back to the charts. I did quit for 4 months, but I did come back to the charts. But this time I did it a little bit differently. First of all, before then, I had three charts going on. I had two extra screens and my laptop. I literally donated two screens to the garbage men. They were brand new, high definition screens, like 2 years. I just wanted to get rid of them because I knew that I would go back to them if they were in the house. Then I removed all of my indicators, right? I went into the bare naked charts. Why? Because we watch all these different gurus, we listen to all these different traders, and they all have their preferred indicator, right? And we tend to put them all on our charts thinking that they're going to work for us. Just because they work for somebody else does not mean they're going to work for you. And I had 10 indicators going on before. I was in constant analysis paralysis and I removed them. You know, it's funny because some of the most popular indicators like Bollinger Bands, Petler Bands, Fibonacci's, they're really popular. But when I removed them, I felt this weight lifted off of me because I never aligned with them. I never felt right with them. And when I removed them, it was a load lifted off. And all of a sudden, I was able to focus on my charts and truly get back to the basics. And interestingly enough, a couple of years ago, one of my students says to me, he's like, Marina, your teaching style is very similar to, it's very similar to Coach John Wooden. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I've never heard of Coach John Wooden. I'm like, who is this guy? So of course I go and I research who he is. And I found out that he was at one point the most legendary basketball coach ever out there. And then he became a really, really famous life coach and business coach, right? But his entire philosophy was when in doubt, get back to the basics. And I mean, this guy led his teams to win 88 national championships, 10 NCAAs. His teams were A-star players. A-star players. Yet, whenever they started a brand new season, he would always put their egos on the bench, and he would always start with the basics and get back to the basics. How to tie your shoe, how to roll up your sock, how to dribble the ball. Why? Because it doesn't matter the amount of national championships you have won. If your shoe is untied and you're running down the court and your foot, you trip because your shoe isn't tied on well, it doesn't matter all that you knew. Your ankle is going to be sprained and you're going to be sitting out on the sidelines for the rest of the season. So you always go back to the basics. And today I have a very special offer for only the participants that are here today, right now. It's my introductory course that I created called Bootcamp for Day Trading. So this course you could work off any apparatus, laptop, desktop, tablets, phones, iPhones, Android, it doesn't matter. And all of this is a one-time price, one time of $97. All right, guys. Now, I know that you're all sitting here. You've been really cool and patient. Let's just go here so that you can follow along and truly be active for just the next few minutes. I want you to go to your navigator, to your browser, and put in bootcampfordaytrading.com. Put in bootcampfordaytrading.com so that you can follow along with me and see exactly what you can get for the $97. Because what does $97 truly bring to you that has a similar return on investment today? You guys like to play golf? I don't know. When we first moved to Guatemala, golf was around $27. Today, it's around $120 per person. And this is in Guatemala, right? This is before we left Guatemala and came to Spain. I can't even imagine what it costs in other parts of the world. How about taking your family out for a yummy meal? Today, taking 2 to 3 people out will cost you way more than $97 with a glass of wine or a beer. That's the reality of today. So let's break it down. What do you guys get for your $97 one time? Let's go to bootcampfordaytrading.com. You can follow along and everything you will see there as well. Okay, so what you'll get is, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people really struggle with the platforms, right? Like your equipment, to have trust in your equipment. So we're going to get past all that. In this, I include a 30-minute pro platform setup tutorial so that we get right into it. All right. This way, we don't have to worry about the platforms and we just start having fun with the actual trading and having full confidence in your equipment. Then we really get into the nitty gritty, right? Like the market anatomy process, the trends, the movements, truly dissecting them, really understanding them. Because once you guys get this, I can guarantee you, you will be going to that next level, because a lot of times we overlook the basics, right? A lot of times what we're doing, especially in the financial markets, since there's no barrier to entry, is what I like to say is that we're constantly putting in windows, but the windows are crashing because we never built up our walls and foundation to hold those windows in place. Okay? So, understanding reversal patterns, because these babies, I can't even tell you how amazing they are and how simple they are to spot. And once you start to spot them, everything will change, right? They are the telltale signs. Then we're going to really focus on support and resistance areas and seeing the divergences, really understanding those divergences To me, that is my holy grail, and they have worked for me every single time. And then we're going to dive into the breakout. We're going to really dive into the understanding and the power of what makes a breakout trade, right? How to spot them. And then most importantly, how to avoid those fake out breakouts, because the fake out breakouts, they happen. And you want to avoid them at all costs. Okay. So this is how we spot them, and we go over it completely, and you'll have complete unlimited access to the curriculum. Over this whole thing is valued at $1,600, right? Everything you will get here is included in that $97. And here's just a few of my students that I have worked with, and I have students from all over the world. That's the beauty of trading, is that we truly can do it from anywhere in the world. Michelle, I am just finishing up your boot camp. I have to say this is the best money I ever spent. Derek, you are the only mentor that truly checks the work, and I really enjoy doing this. Adrian, I'm enjoying the boot camp and I'm learning every day. But here's what I asked you once before, and this is super important for you guys. All right. Remember, I asked you, how do you know you are doing it right? How do you know that you are doing it right? Who is there for you to be accountable to? Who is there for you to ask the question? So what I included in that $97 for 30 days, for one entire month, you will have one-on-one mentorship with me. That means 30 days, unlimited questions, asking me about charts, meeting with me one-on-one. That is included in that one-time price, because having a mentor can truly change the trajectory of your trading, and you will have somebody to truly ask, to be accountable to really have advice and work with. Okay. Now, this price is $97. $97. Go here right now. Bootcampfordaytrading.com. Bootcampfordaytrading.com. And here is what you guys will get for that $97. Everything in the course. 30 days one-on-one mentorship with me live. Okay, live, you'll get free feedback. Look, here's the reality. This is less than one price of a trade. Okay, this is less than the price of one trade. I don't know about you guys, but the average trade is usually between $200 and $400. This is a $97 thing, right? And so the cost of this course will literally be 10x return on your investment. And then you could go out for 100 of these meals. So here's the thing though, because of my mentorship, I only have 25 spots that I'm able to open up. And I usually sell out pretty fast, and it is a full house. So usually I would really recommend for you to hop on this, because this is an offer I do not give to anybody else, right? $97. Here is what you will see when you go to bootcampfordaytrading.com. So here, we could put it in here, bootcampfordaytrading.com. All right, you can put it in bootcampfordaytrading.com. Oops, let me just do this. If you have this issue right here, just go in and remove the S from HTTPS, and it will take you to the order form, which looks like this. This is the order form. Let me just see if you could see what I am sharing here. I think you guys are able to see it, right? This is what you're seeing right here, bootcampfordaytrading.com. And you'll see it's a one-time price of $97, one time. But if you do want a payment plan, it is $59 two times, but you get automatic instant access to the entire course right away. Okay. So go here right now, bootcampfordaytrading.com. It will take you to this specific thing. Oops, hang on just one second. All right, bootcampfordaytrading.com. Just put it into your browser, and oops, here we go. So go here, guys. And again, if you have any questions or anything else that you need, please let me know. Bootcampfordaytrading.com. And thank you so much for taking the time out to be here with us today and enjoying this presentation. Thank you so much, everybody. And let me know if you have any more questions. And I will see you all at a I'll see you all at bootcampfordaytrading.com. All right, guys, let me know if there's any questions or anything at all. And thanks, David, for having me.